I stared at my phone and said, "Okay, Lena, let's talk calmly now." The message didn't send. I frowned and whispered, "That's strange." Tried calling. The call failed. I checked her profile. It was gone. I searched her name. Nothing. No, I muttered. No. I checked every app, every account, every place her name used to exist. Blocked. Everywhere. I laughed once, sharp and broken. "You can't be serious." The room felt too quiet. I said out loud, "So, this is it? This is how you end us?" My phone buzzed. I hoped it was her. "It was Ethan, hey?" he said. "You okay? You didn't answer earlier?" "I think she erased me," I said. "What do you mean erased?" "I mean blocked. Everywhere, like I never existed." "That doesn't make sense," he said. "You two talked yesterday." "I know," I said. "That's what scares me." I sat on the bed and rubbed my face. Did I say something wrong? I replayed everything. I asked for space, not war. Ethan paused. "What was the last thing she said?" "She said, 'I'm tired,'" I replied. And I said, "Then let's rest, not run." "That's it?" "That's it. Let's not block everywhere material," he said. "I keep checking," I said. "Like if I refresh enough, she'll come back." "She won't," he said gently. "I know," I said, "but my hands don't." I didn't sleep. I watched the ceiling and argued with a ghost. "You could have just said goodbye," I whispered. "You didn't have to kill me like this." The next morning at work, I walked in and said "morning" to a group near the desk. They stopped talking. One woman smiled too fast. A guy avoided my eyes. I felt it immediately. Ethan texted me. "People are being weird. I feel it," I typed back. At my desk, I opened my email. Nothing from Lena, of course. I laughed under my breath. "Still blocked?" I said to no one. A coworker leaned over and said, "Hey man, rough breakup, huh?" I looked up. "What?" He shrugged. "Just heard stuff." "What stuff?" I asked. He hesitated. "Never mind." "Tell me," I said. He leaned closer and whispered, "That you keep begging her. That she had to block you." "What?" My chest tightened. "Begging?" "That's what she said," he replied. I stood up too fast. "I never begged her. I'm just telling you," he said, hands raised. I walked to the bathroom and locked myself in a stall. I said quietly, "You lied about me." My phone buzzed again. "Ethan, did you hear?" "Yes," I typed. "She told people I begged. It's messed up," he wrote. "Do you want me to say something?" "No," I said. "Not yet." I stared at my reflection and said, "So this is the story now. I'm the desperate one." I remembered Lena laughing once, saying, "I hate messy endings," I whispered. "So you made me the mess." At lunch, Ethan sat across from me. "You're shaking." "I feel stupid," I said. Like my pain turned into entertainment. "She knows what she's doing," he said. "I trusted her," I replied. "I told her my fears, and she used them," he said. I nodded. "I don't recognize her anymore." Ethan said, "This is the breaking point." "Man," I looked down at my phone, still silent, and said, "No, this is the collapse." When I got home, I typed her name one last time. Blocked. I set the phone down and said, "You erased me." Then I added, "But you don't get to define me." I didn't believe it yet, but I needed to say it. I heard the joke before I saw the smile. So a coworker said, "Did she finally unblock you, or are you still begging?" I froze. "What did you say?" He laughed. "Relax, man." "I'm kidding." "You're not," I said. "Who told you that?" He shifted. "Everyone knows." I felt heat rise in my face. "Knows what?" "That you won't leave Lena alone," he said. "That she had to block you everywhere," I said. "That's a lie," shrugged. "That's what she said." I walked away before my mouth betrayed me. My hands shook as I whispered, "You made me into something ugly." At my desk, I stared at my screen and heard voices behind me. "Poor girl," someone said. "She did the right thing," another replied. I turned and said, "You can ask me instead of guessing." They went quiet. I opened my phone and typed to Ethan. It's worse, he replied. I know. Maya called me. Maya. I typed. Why? She's worried, he wrote. About you. I laughed once. About the lie version of me? Maya found me after lunch. Can we talk? I said, if you're here to tell me to move on, don't. She sighed. I'm here because I don't know what to believe. Ask me, I said. She folded her arms. Did you beg her? No, I said. I asked for honesty. Did you keep texting her? No, I said. I respected the silence she forced. Maya frowned. She said you scared her. I swallowed. I trusted her. That's not an answer, she said. I cried to her, I said. I told her my fears. I never threatened. I never begged. Maya softened. Then why would she say that? I said, because the truth doesn't protect her image. She looked away. People think you're obsessed. I know, I said. I hear it everywhere. Why aren't you defending yourself? She asked. Because if I shout, I look guilty, I said. If I stay quiet, I lose. It's not fair, she said. Neither was blocking me and rewriting history, I replied. Maya whispered. She showed screenshots. My chest tightened. Of what? Messages, she said. Out of context? I nodded. She took my worst moments and framed them. Why would she do that? Maya asked. To stay clean, I said. Someone has to be dirty, Maya said. I wanted to believe her. I know, I said. She's convincing. She hesitated. Do you want me to tell people? No, I said. Not yet. Why? She asked. Because I need to know who listens to lies, I said, and who comes to me. Maya studied me. You're angry. I'm humiliated, I said. Anger comes later, she nodded slowly. I'm sorry. After she left, I sat alone and said, you used my honesty as a weapon. My phone buzzed. Ethan, you okay? No, I typed. But I'm awake now, he replied. What are you going to do? I stared at the screen and said, nothing. Added. And that scares her more than anything.
Ice.
I sat back and whispered, say it out loud then. No one answered. I opened a blank note and typed, I am not what she says. Deleted it at the coffee machine. Someone said, he looks tired. Another voice replied, guilt does that. I turned and said, ask me if you're curious. Silence again. I walked outside and called Ethan. I want to scream, he said. Don't let the lie run. What if it sticks? I asked. Then you'll outgrow it, he said. I said, she knows my past. And she twisted it, he replied. I told her I feared abandonment, I said. Now I'm painted as clingy. Ethan said, that's calculated. I feel exposed, I said. Like my chest is open. You trusted, he said. That's not shameful. I feel stupid, I said. You're grieving, he answered. I leaned against the wall and said, if I defend myself, I become the villain. And if you don't? He asked. I bleed quietly, I said. That's temporary, he replied. I closed my eyes. I don't recognize my life. You will, he said. After this burns out? I hung up and said to myself, she chose the story. Then I said, I'll choose my silence. I checked my phone and said, no messages. I smiled sadly and whispered, truth doesn't chase. I straightened my back and said, I'll wait, even if it hurts. I will not explain myself to people who enjoy lies about me or my silence. I stared at the unsent message and whispered, just answer me once. My phone stayed dark. I typed, I don't hate you. I just want to understand. I deleted it. I typed, tell me what I did wrong. Deleted again. Every night felt the same. I argued with her in my head and said, you promised we'd talk. The imaginary Lena replied, you're too much. I said out loud, I was always enough. Silence answered me. I remembered saying, if something's wrong, tell me. She smiled and said, nothing's wrong. Later she said, I need space. I replied, I'll wait. she said. Don't wait. I didn't listen. I typed another message. I changed for you. I erased it because it sounded like blame. I typed. I miss you. I erased that too because it sounded weak. My phone buzzed. Sophia, she said, you're awake again, aren't you? I said, I'm tired. Tired people sleep, she replied. You're spiraling. I'm thinking, I said. You're hurting, she said. There's a difference. I sighed and said, if I explain better, she'll understand. Sophia laughed softly. She already understood and still left. That's cruel, I said. It's honest, she replied. You can't argue someone into loving you. I stared at the ceiling and said, I keep replaying everything. Stop rewriting the past, she said. You showed up. She pulled away, I said. I felt it. She chased, Sophia said. That's not a crime, but it cost you. I whispered. I lost myself, she said. I know. You forgot who you were before her moods controlled your day. I remembered asking Lena, did I upset you? She said no. Then she went cold. I remembered saying, talk to me, she said. You're exhausting, I said to Sophia. I kept fixing things that weren't broken, kept apologizing for existing, she replied. I typed one last message. I loved you honestly, Sophia said. Don't send it. Why? I asked. Because closure isn't something she can give you, she said. It's something you take. I looked at my gallery and said, there are too many memories. Memories aren't promises, Sophia said. They're just proof you survived. I scrolled through photos and said, I'm smiling in all of these. She answered, you were trying. I said I was shrinking, she said. And you don't need permission to stop. I hovered over the delete button and said, this feels final. It's necessary, she replied. I deleted the photos and felt nothing at first. Then I exhaled and said, I'm exhausted, Sophia said. That's what letting go sounds like. I placed the phone down and said, I don't want to fight anymore, she answered. Then don't. I closed my eyes and whispered, maybe choosing myself isn't losing. I picked the phone up again and said, I hate how quiet it is, Sophia replied. You're not used to peace. I'm used to chaos. Dressed as love, I said. She said, say that again and listen to yourself. I kept asking her what she needed, I said. She never asked what I needed. That imbalance broke you, Sophia said. I thought effort meant loyalty. I replied, effort without return becomes self-betrayal, she said. I laughed bitterly and said, I defended her even when she hurt me. You defended the version of her you hoped she'd be, Sophia replied. I said. I was scared she'd leave if I stopped trying. She left because you tried alone, she said. I stared at my hands and said, I feel empty. Empty is better than drained, she answered. I whispered, what if I never hear from her again? Sophia said, then you heal faster than you think, I said. What if she comes back? Then you decide, she replied. Not her. I leaned back and said, I don't know who I am without fixing someone. You'll remember, she said. Give it time. Ended the call and said to myself, no more drafts. I deleted every unsent message and said, no more begging in silence. The room felt lighter. I lay down and whispered, tomorrow, I'll try differently. For the first time, I didn't argue back. I slept. I woke briefly and said, I'm still here. No one answered. And that was okay. I whispered, I don't need to explain my pain anymore. The thought settled slowly, I said. I gave what I could. The night didn't argue. I turned my phone face down and said, I choose rest. For once my mind agreed. I breathed and said, this chapter is ending. Silence stayed. I stayed too. I thought once more and said, tomorrow I won't reach back. The promise felt fragile, but real. I closed my eyes and let the dark hold me gently. I whispered, I am choosing myself now. I decided not to explain myself anymore. When someone asked, is it true you won't leave her alone? I said, believe what you want. The silence shocked them more than denial, Ethan said. People are waiting for you to react. I know, I said. That's why I won't. You're letting the rumors grow, he warned. I'm letting them show their shape, I replied. At work. Someone whispered, he looks guilty. I looked up and said, I look busy. I buried myself in tasks and stayed late. When my hands worked, my thoughts slowed. Daniel stopped by my desk and said, You've been here every night? I need the distraction, I said. You need direction, he replied. I want you to lead the new project. Blinked. Why me? Because pressure didn't break you, he said. It focused you. I nodded and said I won't waste it. After he left, I whispered, I still matter. Online, Lena posted quotes about healing and toxic love. Someone showed me and said, She's hurting, I replied. So am I. Could expose her, Ethan said later. One post would end it. I know, I said. And that's why I won't. He frowned. Why protect someone who burned you? I'm not protecting her, I said. I'm protecting who I'm becoming. At lunch, Maya said, Your silence makes you look cold. I'm not cold, I said. I'm careful. She's gaining sympathy, Maya said. People feel sorry for her. Let them, I replied. Pity fades, she asked. Doesn't it hurt? It does, I said. But pain doesn't get to drive. At night, my fingers hovered over my phone. I said one truth would feel so good. Then I said, and cost everything. I chose sleep instead. The next morning, someone said, You're different. I answered, I'm quieter. They laughed nervously. That's worse. Stronger, I corrected. Daniel said the project deadline moved up. I'll handle it, I said. You don't complain, he noted. I used to, I said. It didn't help. During meetings, people listened when I spoke. No apologies. No explanations, Ethan said. You're taking control. I'm taking space, I replied. Control comes later. He watched me and said, She hates this. I know, I said. Silence removes her audience. One evening, my phone buzzed with another screenshot of her post. I said, She wants a reaction, Ethan asked. And you? I want peace, I said. You could win, he insisted. I already am, I replied. I'm not angry all day anymore. At work, someone asked, Are you okay? I said, I'm focused. That was the truth, Maya said. You don't defend yourself. I don't need to, I replied. Truth doesn't beg. She sighed. You've changed, as I said, and it saved me. Late one night alone, I whispered. Silence isn't weakness. I looked at my reflection and said, It's discipline. I imagined exposing everything and felt the rush fade quickly, I said. Temporary victory isn't worth permanent damage. The rumors slowed. New ones replaced them. He's intense. He doesn't care. Moved on fast. I smiled and said, Pick one. Daniel emailed and wrote, Impressive leadership. I whispered, She doesn't see this part. Then I added, She doesn't get to. I stood at my desk and said quietly, I choose restraint. The room didn't answer, but for the first time, I didn't need it to. I walked out late, tired but steady, I said to myself. This is how power shifts. No applause. No drama, just control. Ethan leaned toward me and said, You heard about her new boyfriend? I replied, I didn't ask. That's the point, he said. It's already messy, I shrugged. That's not my business. She's telling different stories to different people, Ethan added. They're comparing notes now, I said. Truth hates inconsistency. He smiled slightly. You sound calm? I am, I said. That scares her. At work, a mutual friend pulled me aside and whispered, Can I ask you something? I said, if you're ready for the answer. Did you really beg her? She asked. I looked her in the eyes and said, No, that's it, she said. That's the truth, I replied. She hesitated. She said, I know what she said. I interrupted. Ask yourself why she keeps talking. Later that day, another message came. I hope you're okay, it read. I didn't reply. Ethan said, She's fishing. I'm not bait, I said. That evening, A man sat across from me at a cafe and said, "You don't know me." "I know your name," I said. "Noah." He nodded. "She did this to me too." I raised an eyebrow. "Rewrite reality? Paint herself clean," he said. "Make someone else unstable." I leaned back. "Why tell me?" "Because people are asking me questions now," he said. "Your name came up," I said, and your silence doesn't match her panic," he replied. I smiled faintly. Silence doesn't lie. Noah said, "She can't stand losing control." "No," I said. "I lived it." "She tried to warn me about you," he said. I laughed once. "Did it work?" "No," he said, "because you don't look dangerous." "You look tired?" I said I was. He said, "Not anymore." At work the next day, someone asked, "Are you okay with all this?" I replied, "I'm okay with the truth." They nodded slowly. "She's unraveling." "I'm not watching," I said. "Ethan texted me. She asked about you." I typed back, "I'm busy." "She hates that," he replied. I said, "I love that." Another message came in. "Can we talk?" I stared at it and said out loud, "No." I put the phone down. Maya caught me later and said, "People are starting to doubt her." "I didn't push them," I said. "Shh, you didn't have to," she replied. "You're consistent." I said, "Truth has a rhythm." She looked relieved. "I'm sorry I doubted you, I know," I said. "You're human," she asked. "Doesn't it feel good?" I thought for a moment and said, "It feels quiet." That night, Ethan said, "She's spiraling." "I'm stabilizing," I replied. "You never planned revenge," he said. "No," I said. "I planned survival." Another indirect message appeared. "I hope there's no bad blood." I whispered, "There's no access." I deleted it without replying. Noah texted me later. She called me, replied, "I'm not surprised. She's scared," he said. I typed, "Growth looks like threat to manipulators." He answered, "You're different." I said, "I'm healed enough not to explain." The next day someone said, "You seem lighter." "I am," I said. "I stopped carrying lies that weren't mine." At lunch, Ethan said, "You won without fighting." "I didn't win," I corrected. "I outgrew." Another message came. "Please respond." I locked my phone and said no. I looked around and realized something had shifted. People weren't watching me anymore. They were watching her. I said quietly, "My progress unsettles her." And for the first time, I felt stronger than my pain. Her name lit up my screen like a ghost that didn't know it was dead. "Lena." I stared and said, "So you remember how to type now?" The message read, "Hey, I hope you're doing okay." I didn't reply right away, and my heart beat faster, but my hands were steady. I said out loud, "Months too late." Another message came. "I didn't mean for things to get so weird." I typed, "They were weird because you made them that way." She replied, "That's not fair. Left when you lied." She paused, then typed, "I never lied. People misunderstood." I answered, "You let them." She wrote, "You could have defended yourself," I replied. "I didn't need to." That seemed to shake her. "Everyone thinks I'm the bad one now." I read that twice and said, "Now you hear it." She typed, "I was hurt too." I answered, "Being hurt doesn't excuse hurting." She sent, "You sound cold." I said, "I sound healed." A long pause followed. "Then why didn't you fight for us?" I stared at that and said, "I fought alone." She wrote, "I thought you'd chase." I replied, "I thought you'd tell the truth." She typed, "You're different." I answered, "You forced that." She sent, "I just wanted space." I replied, "You wanted control?" That message stayed unread longer than the rest. Then she typed, "People are asking questions."
Ice.
That happens when stories don't match. She wrote, "They don't believe me." I replied, "I know." She sent, "Did you tell them anything?" I answered, "Only when asked." She typed, "You ruined my image." I laughed softly and said, "I kept mine." She replied, "You're acting superior." I typed, "I'm acting done." Another pause. Then, "Can we talk properly?" Yes, we are. She sent, "I miss how you were." I answered, "I don't." She typed, "That hurts." I replied, "That's growth." She wrote, "You used to care." I answered, "I still do, just not like that." She sent, so, that's it? I stared at the screen and said, it was over when you erased me. She replied, I didn't think you'd survive it. I typed, that's the part you underestimated. She sent, you don't need to be cruel. I answered, I'm being honest. She typed, I feel like I lost everything. I replied, you lost control. She wrote, I lost you. I said out loud, you threw me away. I typed, you chose the story over the person. She replied, I was scared. I answered, so was I. I didn't lie. She sent, can we start over? I shook my head and said, no. I typed, I won't explain myself again. She wrote, you're really not coming back. I replied, I already left. She sent, I didn't expect this. I answered, I didn't expect betrayal. She typed. I said, I'm sorry. I replied, too late doesn't mean useless, but it doesn't mean access. She wrote, you think you're better than me now? I answered, I think I'm better to myself. She paused, then sent, people say you moved on fast. I replied, I moved inward. She typed, I feel stupid. I answered, that's not my job to fix. She sent, can you at least say you forgive me? I stared at that and said, forgiveness isn't permission. I typed, I'm not angry. She replied, then why does this feel like rejection? I answered, because it is. She sent, I don't recognize you. I replied, I finally do. Another pause stretched longer than before. Then she typed, if I disappear again, I interrupted by typing, you already did. She replied, this isn't how I wanted it to end. I answered, endings don't ask permission. She sent one last message. Take care. I looked at it and said, I already am. I didn't reply. I locked my phone and set it down. My chest felt calm, not empty. I whispered, closure doesn't need witnesses. For the first time, I didn't wait for another message. I chose silence again. This time it felt final. People stopped saying her name around me. That's how I knew things had changed, Ethan said. She's not being invited anymore. I replied, that happens. You don't sound surprised, he said. I stopped expecting fairness, I answered. I only expect patterns to repeat. Maya asked me to sit down and said, I owe you an apology. I said, you don't. She shook her head. I believed her version first. I know, I said. She needed that, Maya sighed. People are seeing through it now. I didn't help them, I replied. You didn't have to, she said. Your consistency did? I asked, how does she look? Tired, Maya said. Defensive. Alone. I nodded. That's the cost of control. Later, Noah called and said, you were right. I replied, about what? She's done this before, he said. Same story, different face. I leaned back and said, so it was never personal. It felt personal, Noah said. That's how she wins, I answered. Not anymore. She can't stand that you're calm, he added. I can, I said, at work. Someone said, you seem lighter. I stopped carrying blame that wasn't mine, I replied. They smiled. You changed. Yes, I said. On purpose, Ethan asked me. Does it feel like justice? I thought for a moment. It feels quiet. That's it? He asked. That's enough, I replied. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post. I didn't explain. I woke up, worked, exercised, and slept. Routine replaced chaos. One night, Ethan said, she told people you manipulated her. I laughed once. That lie's late. No one believes it, he said. I know, I replied. Truth already settled. Maya texted me. I'm proud of you, I answered. I survived. She replied. You transformed. I didn't argue, Noah said. She keeps asking why you don't react, I replied. Because my piece isn't bait, he said. She feels exposed. I answered. That's what honesty does. I looked in the mirror and said, I don't hate her. Reflection didn't argue, I said. I don't forgive her either. That felt honest. New people entered my life without knowing the old story, one said. You're calm under pressure, I replied. I learned the hard way. Another asked, what drives you? I answered, freedom. I set goals and said them out loud. I want stability. I want truth. I want growth. No one laughed. Ethan watched me and said, you're not angry anymore. I was never angry, I replied. I was wounded and now. He asked, healed enough, I said. Maya said, do you ever miss her? I miss who I thought she was, I answered. That's human, she said. Double quotes, yes, I replied. But it's no longer heavy, Noah said. She lost her circle. I answered, she built it on lies. He said, do you feel guilty? No, I said. I feel done. One morning, I woke up and didn't think about her. I noticed and smiled. I said to myself, this is what moving on looks like. There was no dramatic moment, just distance. Someone asked, how did you get through it? I replied, I stopped proving my worth. They nodded. Ethan said, you became untouchable. I became unavailable. I corrected for chaos, for control, for rewriting reality. I sat alone one night and said, it was never about me being unworthy. The room stayed quiet. I continued. It was about her needing power. That truth settled deep. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need an apology. I needed myself back, and I had him. Calm, grounded, unbothered, I whispered. Survival turned into transformation. Nothing answered. Everything felt right. I noticed her before she noticed me. Ethan leaned close and said, she's here, I replied. I see her. He asked, do you want to leave? No, I said. I want this to end properly. She walked over slowly and said, I didn't expect to see you. I answered, neither did I. Her voice shook. You look different. I am, I said. She smiled nervously. Can we talk? We are, I replied. She glanced around and said, somewhere private? I don't need privacy, I said. I need clarity, she swallowed. I never meant for things to go that far. They went exactly where you pushed them, I said. She said I was scared. I know, I replied. You were scared of the truth? She shook her head. That's not fair. It is, I said. Fair just feels uncomfortable now, she said. I didn't think people would turn on me. I didn't think you would lie about me, I replied. Her eyes filled. You don't have to be so cold. I'm not cold, I said. I'm finished, she whispered. I miss you. I answered. You miss control. That's not true, she said quickly, I replied. Then tell me why honesty was so hard. She opened her mouth and closed it again. I said, you already lost me when you chose lies over respect, she said. I never wanted to lose you. You never protected me, I replied. She stepped closer. I thought you'd come back, I said. I begged for honesty, not reunion. She froze. That's not how it felt. Because you rewrote it, I said. She said, people think I'm a villain. I was painted as one first, I replied. She whispered. I didn't think you'd walk away. I didn't think you'd erase me, I said. Her voice broke. I was overwhelmed. So was I replied. I didn't betray you. She looked down. I messed up. Yes, I said. And I accepted that. She looked up. Then why won't you forgive me? Because forgiveness doesn't rebuild trust, I replied. She said, I said I'm sorry. Heard it. I said, I don't need it anymore. She reached for my arm and stopped herself. You're really done, I said. She whispered. I feel small. That's what happens when stories collapse, I replied. She said, I never thought you'd be this calm. I never thought calm could feel this strong, I said. She asked, was I ever important to you? You were, I replied. You're not anymore. Tears slid down her face. That hurts, I said. Truth doesn't soften itself. She looked around and said, people are watching. I know, I replied. They always were, she said. Can we at least be okay? We already are, I said. Just separately. She nodded slowly. I didn't think this would be our ending. It isn't dramatic, I replied. It's honest, she said. I thought you were begging to come back. I was begging you to stop lying, I said. She closed her eyes. I hear it now. It's too late, I replied. She opened them again. So this is goodbye. Yes, I said. She hesitated. Take care of yourself. I am, I replied. I stepped back and said, I hope you learn, she whispered. I lost you, I answered. You let me go. I turned away without anger. Each step felt lighter. Ethan met my eyes and said, You okay? I'm free, I replied. I walked into the night and said quietly, This chapter is closed. No one followed. The silence felt earned. I smiled and kept walking forward. I woke up one morning and said, I don't feel heavy anymore. No one answered, but I smiled. Ethan said later, You look different, I replied. I feel settled. Is it over? He asked. It's done, I said. There's a difference. At work, someone said, People finally know the truth, I answered. I already did. You're calm about it. I don't need validation, I said. I needed clarity. Maya met me for coffee and said, I admire how you handled everything. I replied, I didn't handle it perfectly. That's not what it looks like, she said. I doubted myself, I admitted. I stayed too long. I ignored signs. She nodded. That's called being human. I forgive myself for that, I said. She smiled. That's growth. I sat alone later and said, I wasn't weak for loving deeply. The room stayed quiet. I continued, I was brave for staying honest. That felt true. Noah texted me. She stopped talking about you. I replied, Good. He wrote, You don't care? I care enough not to reopen wounds, I said. He answered, You're solid now. I typed, I built myself back. One evening. Someone new said, You seemed confident. I replied, I trust myself now. They asked, What changed? I stopped arguing with lies, I said. Ethan said, Do you ever feel angry? I feel aware, I replied. Anger needed control. Awareness gives freedom. Huh, he laughed. You sound like a different man. I am, I said. And I like him. Looked at old messages once and said, You don't hurt me anymore. I deleted them without ceremony. I said, You don't get space in my future. That felt final. Maya asked, Do you forgive her? I forgive myself first, I said. That's where it starts. And her? She asked. I release her, I replied. Forgiveness doesn't require reconnection. She nodded slowly. That's healthy. I built routines and spoke them out loud. I wake early. I work with purpose. I rest without guilt. Each sentence felt earned. Someone at work said, You handled rumors with grace, I replied. I handled myself with respect. They paused. That's rare. I learned the hard way, I said. I caught my reflection one night and said, You survived betrayal without becoming bitter. I smiled at that. I added, You didn't lose your kindness. That mattered. Ethan said, Do you think she regrets it? Regret is her lesson, I replied. Growth is mine. He nodded. You were never the one who lost. I know. I said. I sat quietly and said, The story doesn't hurt anymore. The silence felt friendly now. I whispered, I don't need revenge. I followed with, I needed self-respect. That need was met. I remembered the nights I begged for honesty and said, I gave what I had. I didn't judge myself for that. I said, effort is not shameful. The past stayed quiet. Someone asked me, What would you tell your old self? I answered, Trust your instincts and walk away sooner. They said, Anything else? Yes, I replied. Don't confuse love with endurance. I walked home and said, I'm proud of you. The words didn't feel forced. I breathed and said, I choose peace daily. No one interrupted. I opened a new notebook and wrote goals without fear. I closed it and said, The future feels clean. I didn't rush. I didn't look back. I stood still and said, I was never the one who lost. The truth didn't echo. It settled. I smiled and whispered, This is closure. Then I turned the page and moved forward.